This lesson is making sense of decimal multiplication and goes with CPM Chapter 5, Section 2.1. Now, really what this lesson does is it sort of builds on what we've been talking about before with numbers and fractions, but really it goes back to multiplying decimals and making sure that you have everything in the right places. So let's look at the first problem. Sophia made cookies for her friends. 80% of the cookies were chocolate chip. Of those, 40% had almonds. What percentage of the cookies were chocolate chip cookies and did not have almonds? You can solve this problem with fractions or by decimals. That's your choice. I will show you both ways. Make sure that you show your work, okay? And make sure that you read the question carefully to be certain that you're answering what it is asking you. Go ahead and pause the video and try it on your own first. I solved this using decimals first, and I did 60 hundredths times 80 hundredths, because what I'm really saying is 60% of the cookies do not have almonds, because 40% do have almonds, and it's 60% of the 80% because I'm only looking at the chocolate chip cookies at this point. And then I continued my upside down triangle to show that 60 hundredths really is the same thing as 6 tenths, and 8 tenths is the same as 80 hundredths. And then I multiplied 6 tenths and 8 tenths to get 48 hundredths, which tells me that 48% of the total amount of cookies were chocolate chip and did not have almonds. Okay, now I'll show you how to do it with fractions. I set it up in the same way with the upside down triangle again. I did 60 100ths times 80 100ths. Again, I'm looking at 60% of 80%. Simplified that to 6 tenths times 8 tenths, and then multiplied across. 6 times 8 is 48, 10 times 10 is 100, and 48 100ths is the same as 48%. Simplifying here really made it a lot easier than doing the multiplication with 60 and 80, but it is possible to do it either way. Let's look at another question. Use a generic rectangle to show 3 tenths times 5 and 432 thousandths as a sum of products, and then simplify. What is this really saying? Think about that, pause the video, and then try it. What it's really saying is I need to draw a generic rectangle, and when it says sum of products, what that means is I just need to add the different sections of the generic rectangle together. If you weren't sure about that and weren't sure how to solve the problem, go ahead and pause the video here and try it again. First step that I'm going to do is set up my generic rectangle, and you notice that I kept everything in decimal form. That's because I wanted to solve it as a decimal. You could also convert these pieces into fractions if you find that to be easier. Then I'm going to go through and solve each square. Once I've solved everything on the inside, then I can line it up and add it all together. When you do that, you want to make sure that you are lining up the decimals carefully. Once you line it up, you can see that a lot of these numbers, because we have it lined up this way, they just add another 0 on the inside and work your way down. Don't always use that because that's not necessarily going to be the case, but in this case it does work out that way. And then you just add straight down as you usually would. And when you do that, here you have your new solution.